Christian parenting.
Have you ever thought about selling everything and hitting the road in an RV? Our guests today did exactly that. Join us for this adventurous conversation on Family Vision.
Hi, my name is Ray Reno. Welcome to Family Vision with my parents, Dr. Rob and Amy Reno, strengthening families through practical, encouraging, and real conversations.
Rob Reno here with Visionary Family Ministries alongside my beautiful wife, Amy.
It is so good to be here today.
It is summertime and the season of road trips. Sweetheart, you grew up in a family with a pop-up camper.
Yes, I did.
Now, COVID 2020 summer, we actually reenacted one of your childhood trips with a 3-week Western States National Parks adventure with your parents, with their pop-up camper.
Correct.
It was amazing. But, you do a trip like that, a week or 2 or 3, and we come back home, right? Back to reality.
Right, we do.
Back to normal. But we have special guests on Family Vision today who set out for a road trip almost 4 years ago and have not been home since.
That is home.
Their RV is home. They became full-time RV people, and God's taught them a lot of things about parenting and marriage and family and faith. And before I introduce them to you, I want to tell you about a new resource from our partners at Christian Parenting. It's called Helping Moms Raise Confident Daughters. It's a video series that you can stream or download. It's biblical wisdom for all stages of parenting, key conversations to have with your daughter. You can learn all about it at CP Guides, CP Christian Parenting, cpguides.org. That's Helping Moms Raise Confident Daughters with Tara Matson. Okay, let's meet our guests. Welcome, JD and Britney Lott.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rob and Amy. We're happy to be here. And just like you, I'm lucky enough to be sitting next to my beautiful wife, Britney.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
We are so glad that you are here. And Rob already referenced that trip about everybody wanting to get home after 3.5 weeks. And that was everybody but me. I was the one who was ready to go for another 3 weeks. And it was funny because I was getting RV envy during that whole trip. So I have to admit that your life is just really fun to watch on Instagram. I kind of get to live a little vicariously through seeing your little clips and what you're doing. So where are you right now? Where are you talking to us from?
We're in the beautiful Franklin, Tennessee area, so just outside of Nashville, and it is pretty magnificent over here.
Yeah, it's great. And, Amy, we don't necessarily want to plant a seed, but hey, the life on the road is pretty great.
We would love to have y'all if you want to join us at any time.
Get thee behind me.
Okay, well, before we get into questions just about what you're doing right now, give us just the big picture about your family. Like, how long have you been married? How many children do you have? Give us some of the basics.
Yeah, so Britney and I, we have been married for 12 years. We met in Kirkuk, Iraq. She was an Air Force reservist. I was in the Army on my second deployment. We had this wonderful, wonderful whirlwind relationship and ended up getting married as soon as I returned from Iraq. And now we have 7 children, 11 all the way down to just turned 1 month old.
Wow. That sounds just amazing, but very much a whirlwind, too. That's a lot in 12 years, really. That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
We seem to have a bit of an adventurous lifestyle, and it just keeps coming. It's really fun and exciting.
Now, our families first met in 2017 at Pine Cove Family Camp in Tyler, Texas. And you've told us that week was actually an important one for you on your journey. Tell us about that.
So we're huge fans of family camp in general. The whole idea of spending time just focusing on your unit. But that summer was uniquely special. God had been doing a lot of really beautiful things in our family during that time. And listening to you and Amy speak was almost like
it kind of tied a lot of things together.
Yeah.
So it's funny, as you guys were delivering your message over several days, Britney and I just kept looking back and forth at each other like, oh my goodness, there's other people that see it this way. We just weren't able to, well, I guess you guys just kind of packaged it in such a way that it made the message that God had laid on our hearts for generational discipleship as the primary kind of focus and point of the family. That made it so much more clear and strong.
It was just tangible.
Yeah.
Easy to do. It just opened it up as a clear, direct possibility.
A responsibility.
Responsibility.
And I'll tell you, it definitely changed. It put a really strong affirmation and confirmation on what God had been preparing our hearts with and for, and it definitely was a part of significantly changing our whole life trajectory.
That is such a blessing to hear just as speakers, because, you listen to the Holy Spirit and you deliver your message, and it's really the job of the Holy Spirit to plant the seed and see what comes out of it. But it's so powerful to know that God is working through all of us, and you never know how your ministry or what you're saying is going to impact the lives of those around you, which kind of leads me into my next question, because you are having an impact now with these lifestyle choices that you are making. So I think it's about 4 years ago, I think you said, that you made this big decision to become a full-time RV family. So what were some of the things that led you to make that huge life change?
Well, so I was experiencing a profound period of spiritual growth. In Ezekiel, God grabs Ezekiel by a lock of hair and he lifts him up. And I feel like God did that to me, and he said, are you going to seek me with your whole heart or not? And it was really a powerful experience. Over the next 8 months, I just had definitely the most spiritual growth and development of my life, and it was just a powerful time. At one point during this, I was standing by the window and I was just thinking through, maybe like if you remember in Hebrews, I think it's Hebrews 11 specifically, where it's like kind of the Hall of Fame of God's faithful. He talks about Abraham and Noah and just, various figures. And I was just kind of speaking to the Lord and kind of praying as I was by the window. And I said, God, do you have something like that for me? Like, I want to seek you with my whole heart. And I just received this incredibly strong conviction. I want you to build an ark. And that sounds wild. But I talked to Britney, and you could tell your side of the story.
Yeah. And, crazy enough that, right around the same time he's doing this, I was with the kids and I was leading a mini Bible lesson with them. And I was speaking about Noah, and I was like, you guys, it's really, amazing that Noah had this mission, but his wife and his children shared the same calling in the sense that, God told Noah to do this, and they followed. They were like, okay, we're going with you alongside it. And right around that time, JD literally, second after it comes out of my mouth, JD's like, I got to talk to you about something.
Wow.
Yeah. So we sat down and we talked about it, and, we didn't know what that means. God called me to do this to save, my family from the world of cultural Christianity. Just the identity as a Christian, but not the true submission to Christ is what I mean by that.
Yeah, I think we resonate with that in the sense that, it's one of the conversations I'm having with my kids and all the time is just these, it used to be, I would say, that when someone called themselves a Christian, you shared a certain set of beliefs or you felt like you were coming from a certain similar foundation. And now I would say, especially since 2020 and the pandemic, it's even more distorted, for lack of a better word, that you can't really know necessarily just because someone's even attending this church or saying that you necessarily have the similar foundation, especially when it comes to belief in the Word of God.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, when I say cultural Christianity, I think it comes from this kind of what you're saying is that it's a social identity that a lot of people have. Like, I'm a Christian, but it's a social identity, not a spiritual identity. Not a submission to Jesus Christ as Lord.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that one of the things that God is doing through COVID is eliminating that middle nominal Christian category, removing that sort of, like you said, safe cultural Christian, that it's really a time for choosing beliefs, time for choosing actions, time for choosing values, and that middle ground doesn't really exist anymore. What's been one of the highlights of your life on the road?
Oh, relationships. Our family has blossomed in ways that we never expected, and as well as who we've met on the road. It's incredible whenever you really don't know where you're sleeping for the night, whether it be a Walmart or a national park, and just who God has us meet when we're traveling too.
Yeah.
I would say that would be our most favorite part.
It's kind of a joke in the RV community. We don't stay at Walmarts. Like if you're on a travel day, you might. But I totally agree with what Britney said, because like literally today, I just talked to a guy that we met in a parking lot in a Walmart in Wyoming, who we just saw at the park that we're at in Tennessee. And we were just both like, wow. And the conversation went towards faith, and it was kind of a neat thing. But yeah, I would say like some of our best friends we've met. No, it's like all of our best friends we've met on the road, and it's beautiful because you don't have like the baggage that a lot of times we carry from like our social networks or so on and so forth. You just get to be genuine and connect with people.
That's amazing. That's just an interesting perspective, because I think that a lot of people would assume that the opposite, that it would be lonely, you know what I mean, that you wouldn't have community. Mm-hmm. So I really, when I hear that word relationships, you're not just talking about relationships within your family, you're talking about the people who are also on the road. And so that's really fascinating.
Yeah, and I expected you to say a highlight was a place, right? A place that you had gone or a thing that you had done, but you were so quick to say relationships in your family and with others. That really impacted me.
Yes. So what would you say is one of the lowlights or one of the challenges that either you were not, maybe you were expecting it or maybe you weren't expecting it?
I never realized how much weather was going to matter in my life.
Maybe that's more along the line that Rob was originally thinking. Yeah.
There's something about living in 200 square feet with 9 people on your fourth day straight of rain.
Right.
That it's different, We also have to take into account allergy season, or we had to run really quickly south out of Pennsylvania because their version of fall and in my mind, what fall should feel like as a Texan was very different.
All right, give us a funny story that stands out during your travels. I'm sure there's too many of them, but what would be one?
So I was in the military, and I've done some pretty cool terrain navigation, orienteering, so on and so forth type training, right? However, funny enough, I have gotten us lost so many times. We drive separately. It's kind of how it works for us. A lot of families actually do this, but
wait, can you define, what do you mean drive separately? Because aren't you in one?
So
explain that.
So even though we have a bus and the bus does have seatbelts for everybody, JD drives the bus, and I actually drive a 12-passenger van.
Yeah, we've got an airport van now.
Yes, it is an airport van.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
So one time, as I was listening to a podcast, I turned off my alerts on my Google Map GPS there, and I was driving and I missed the turn. Well, we're in New Mexico. I end up on a completely different route to where we're going. It's like an hour and a half behind Britney and where we were originally planning on going. And both of our cell signals were gone.
We had horrible cells, and somehow we had separated. For some reason, I didn't have my wallet, and I was running out of gas with no phone service.
They were hungry. It's getting dinner time.
The kids were, digging through every nook and cranny in the car to find some sort of cash to get gas. And since it's right after COVID, it was like half the gas stations won't let you in them.
Right.
So
especially in New Mexico.
Yes, very strict in New Mexico. So we're searching for gas. I'm trying to call JD. Finally, we find him, and he is
we make contact.
Very far away.
But there is a route. So I pull up the map and I'm like, okay, I can go across this route. So what happens is we go down this route, and I thought there was a bridge that took us across this gorge, right? That took me across this gorge. Drive over here, I'll cross the bridge. Great, I'll catch back up to him. I drove our bus.
Our house. This is our house.
Right.
On one of the most intense off-road adventures.
Oh, no.
I don't care if you had a Jeep, it was smooth-ish, so it wasn't like bouldering or anything, but if you had a Jeep, you would be like, oh, this is a great ride.
There were actually people that were right in front of him, went through this gorge and back up the top.
A group of 20-somethings, like 4 or 5 or 6 of them in a Toyota 4Runner, and they were having a blast. They passed me on this, I had to pull over for them to pass me, because the road says 4x4 only in winter, and I was gasp, I can't back up, so I'm going to just make it happen. Anyway, so they're screaming out the window like, ooh, yeah! And I was like, thumbs up, I got this, but I was sweating bullets, legit sweating bullets. My shirt was it was intense. I get to the top, they had waited at the top, and all busted out of their car, and were standing there on the side of the road just cheering me on.
Cheering you? That's fantastic.
It was amazing. When they finished and they got back to us, poor Kinsey had ridden with Daddy, and
oh no!
Mom, I didn't know we were going to make it.
I
thought it was going to be
the whole time I was praying, God, please help me make it. God, please help me make it. Seriously, Lord, please help me make it. It was intense. So that was a funny, harrowing experience that in hindsight, wow. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that you're definitely defined as a risk taker, JD. That is, you're reminding me of my 2 favorite RV movies. One is The Long, Long Trailer with Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. If you haven't watched that, there's a whole scene.
No, watch it.
Yeah, a whole scene about him having to take that, and then Robin Williams in the movie RV is very similar. But you're my first person to hear a story like that I didn't watch in a movie. So it sounds very harrowing. We can laugh about it now, but it sounds extremely harrowing.
It was very deep and a lot of tight turns, but I can drive our bus like a Mazda Miata now. I can.
Let's be honest though. He has been fired from navigation responsibilities. I did have the pleasure one year of traveling across Nebraska, all on back roads, thanks to JD's.
I turned on inadvertently. I checked the avoid highways button.
I never knew that state could be so big.
Yeah. But you don't need to avoid highways in Nebraska. Just travel tip.
That is fantastic. Oh my goodness. Wow. We want to go a little bit deeper. You have 7 kids, we know, 11 and under. So
Correct.
We would like to hear, what is God teaching you about parenting right now?
Parenting is more about the growth of the parent than the child. I think God really has been laying the burden on my shoulders of making sure that I'm intentional. So, specifically, let's say, with my son. So you said, we have 7 kiddos. Well, 6 of those are sons, and when you have 1 or 2 boys and so on and so forth, you can kind of wing it. But man, I need to be a lot more intentional about how to train and what specifically to train my children. I'm talking biblically, of course, but the lessons that God has instilled in my heart and mind and equipped me with, distilling those so that my children can learn and understand them in a much more intentional way.
Wow. Britney, do you have anything you'd add to that?
I think that what happens a lot of times is what I'm learning most is kind of just where I'm at in that moment, right? And so currently I'm really growing and seeing how the relationship changes from, when they're little, I have to tell them to do all these different steps, It's not just, hey, get dressed, brush your teeth. I have to show exactly each little, let me brush your teeth. We're going to brush the bottom. Then we're going to brush the top and then the front. And it's now with me having older children, it's transitioning to more of a relationship and learning how to grow that between us, how that aspect, because I'm trying really want to capture their hearts. I want their character to be who they are and understand how that defines them. So I'm learning, because like JD said, parenting is more about my growth than theirs in a lot of ways. So I'm just kind of learning that it all does connect.
There's a progressive relationship that you have with your children, moving from like the authority figure to more of like the supporter, encourager, advisor. And our kids are still young, but I can definitely see that's coming on the horizon. So just kind of learning to go between
to navigate what that looks like and how to get there.
Right. Well, JD and Britney, thanks for sharing your hearts and a little bit of your lives with us. We're going to push pause. We're going to pick up our conversation in our next episode because we've got a lot more questions for you. But I want all of our listeners, I want all of our listeners to connect with you. You share your adventures on Instagram at American Family Road Trip. That's American Family Road Trip, all together. It's highs, it's lows, it's fun pictures, it's videos. I just think it's cool you let people travel along with you. And you're also speaking at family discipleship seminars and conferences. What's the best way for people to contact you if they want to learn more about that?
Yes, we have a website as well, jdandbritney.com, which will have our links to our Instagram, or it'll have ways to contact us. You can follow us along there and receive our weekly updates and know exactly where we are. We're definitely really entertaining on Instagram. That's the best place to watch some really goofy videos as well.
Yeah,
I love it.
And that's JD and Britney, so Britney.
Got it.
Great.
Since there's like 700 ways to spell Britney, I think the last I checked.
That's true.
And we'll have the links to this in the show notes also. Also, for all of our friends in and around the Midwest, and maybe we can even get the Lott family on this, we want to see you at the Visionary Family Weekend Away, November 11 to 13, 2022, at the Kalahari Resort in Wisconsin Dells. It's going to be an incredible weekend, worshiping together, having fun, building memories, all the generations together, and we want you to be there. Get all the information at visionaryfam.com/retreat. As always, if we can be praying for your family, you can send us prayer needs at podcast@visionaryfam.com. That is podcast@visionaryfam.com. And we look forward to our next time with you on Family Vision.